Oh, hello. Welcome to Gourmet, the channel where I cook my way through all the cookbooks I own and have never used. We are still working with Delicious Disney, where we'll be making fried green tomatoes with crab and Asiago cheese. So this is from a different chapter. We finally moved on from the classics. We're working with a fancy and festive chapter. So I'm excited. This one sounds pretty good. I do love me a fried green tomato, so let's get started. So the first thing that we need to do for this one is make a balsamic vinegar reduction. So that's 1.5 cups of balsamic vinegar and 5 tablespoons of honey. This is the balsamic vinegar I bought. So that was quite a bit of the bottle, but what's nice is you only need one bottle because we'll use like a couple tablespoons extra of this later on in the recipe. But yeah, I just realized I got balsamic vinegar all over my cookbook. Let me get a paper towel. Uh-oh. Okay, well, you know what? Cookbooks are meant to be used, right? That's the whole point of this. Let's go ahead and get this poured into our saucepan. And then we need to reduce this until it's about 75% reduced. We have gotten our vinegar down to probably about 75%. It's close enough. I'm going to go ahead and measure in 5 tablespoons of honey. And I'll show you, this is the honey I'm using. I've actually never tried this brand before, but it's a Florida honey blend, so I figured probably best for somebody like me with bad allergies. I always try to get like a nice local honey. And we're just going to stir this in, and it says stir until a thick consistency. Oh, never mind. I'm not stirring until a thick consistency. I'm setting aside until it's a thick consistency. Duh. Okay, that makes so much more sense. I was right in my head, and then I read it wrong. Okay, well, the honey's all stirred in. We're going to let this sit pretty much probably until it's cool. Really, this is going to be done at the very end, used at the very end for a drizzle. So it doesn't have to be hot. So apparently, none of my audio recorded for this whole part, so that's fine. But yeah, that's this whole part's gonna be voiceover because I have no idea what happened. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the soothing tones of my voiceover. Here we are getting ready to cut our red onion. We need, let's see, what does the book say? Because I have no idea. We needed a 1/2 cup of thinly sliced red onion. You can see that this onion is huge. So I didn't use the whole thing, I just kind of guesstimated. And then we're making this kind of slaw, I guess is what it really is. So I did cut the onion in half. And you can see here, I'm kind of comparing the size of the onion to the green tomato because we're going to be layering this all on top. So I didn't want the red onion to be super big compared to the green tomato. But we're just doing really, really thin slices of this onion. And that's what the book says. So we're following the book, which is shocking. Look at how thin those slices are. I'm so proud of myself. You would be surprised, and I would be embarrassed at how long this actually took me to slice it that thin. Now that we have our red onion sliced, it's time to go ahead and slice our red pepper. Look at me remembering to take the sticker off beforehand. We need another 1/2 cup of thinly sliced red bell pepper. So I once again decided to only do a small portion of the bell pepper and cut it really, really thin again. So that's our sliced red pepper. You can see it looks really nice. It's actually quite colorful, I think, with the red onion and the red bell pepper. I should mention in here that I did make this like slaw. That's what I ended up calling it. I don't know what it is. I think they might have called it in a salad in the book, but I decided it was a slaw. I did make this ahead of time so that all the flavors could sit before I fried any of the green tomatoes. I thought that that was the way to go. The cookbook doesn't necessarily doesn't say to do it that way. It's kind of like the 8th step out of the 9 or 10 steps in the book. But I think it worked out really well because then you have the fried green tomatoes, they're kind of fresh. And this wasn't quick to make necessarily. So yeah, anyways, those are my thoughts. Here we are adding in some basil. We needed 15 basil leaves thinly sliced. I did actually count them out. You should be proud. And I thinly slice them, and we'll just put them on top in there with red onion and red bell pepper. You can see our little strips of basil on top. Now we're going and moving on to the tarragon. It's just, same as the basil. It's the store-bought fresh herbs. We all know the ones. But we needed 25 tarragon leaves, which I did actually count, believe it or not. I was very close to not doing it. And then I thought, you know what? Do it for the story, right? Not that I can say I think it made that big of a difference. We're adding salt. We're adding pepper. There's a tablespoon of olive oil in here, and we're just kind of going to give this another stir. But I am just rewatching this, and my mouth is watering because I'm remembering this being so delicious. So now what we're going to do, we're going to get some Asiago cheese shredded. We need a cup and a quarter. I just got this Belgioso. It's really the only one they had at the store, so that's what I went with. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to open this up a little bit. What I am going to do to treat myself, because I deserve it. That's delicious. Okay. And what do I need? 1 1/4 cup. So, this one. Okay. That didn't work out quite well. But let's just go ahead and grade this part. Here's the question. I'm going to attempt this again. Do we think it'll work? There we go. That's better. That was great. That was a good timing spot to stop. That is a cup and a quarter. I'm going to clean things up a little bit. And we'll get right back to it. A little more cleanup. Now I'm going to go ahead and get our green tomatoes ready. We are supposed to peel the tomatoes and slice them into 1/2 inch thick slices. So I will say, the only time I've ever peeled a potato or tomato, oh my gosh, these are just really throwing me for some reason. The only time I've really peeled a tomato was kind of in the last cookbook when we did like a French style, and we boiled them. We had like cut them, boiled them, and then we peeled the skin that way. It doesn't say to do that. It specifically says a vegetable peeler, so that's what we're going to do. Not sure how this is going to go, but so far, not great. I also don't know why we can't have the skin on. What's like, what's the difference, you know? Okay, so there's our peeled tomato. That was admittedly harder than I thought it was going to be. But let's get this sliced. I'm just going to slice off that a little bit. And then, okay, let us, I mean, those are pretty solid slices. Okay, I think that's a pretty good size. I know this one's a little chunky because of the ends, but I think 4 per tomato isn't bad. We have 5 tomatoes total. I'm going to go ahead and just do the rest. I'm not going to. We've had a little bit of change around here. These are our tomatoes that we've sliced. We have quite a few, which is great. I went ahead and just pre-measured out. We needed 1 1/4 cups all-purpose flour. I've got it on one plate. We have 2 1/2 cups of panko breadcrumbs on this plate. I am going to measure out. Where's my open olive oil? One of these is open. I need a 1/2 cup of olive oil. I'm just gonna. That's probably a little more than a half, but I think just to be safe, I've got a little bit of a bigger skillet. Um, so I guess I didn't need the measuring cup after all. There is our oil. And then I'm going to crack 5 eggs into this bowl. And basically what we're doing is getting our station ready. Station. But if anybody's ever fried, you know what I'm doing. We're going to go ahead and fry these tomatoes. We just need to get everything set and ready. Now, I will say, looking at the amount of tomatoes and looking at the amount of flour and breadcrumbs I have, I'm a little worried that I'm going to need some extra, but I'm trying to stick to the recipe. I just know from when my grandma taught me how to fry chicken that I always ran out of these things, so I needed more. But I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to get a fork and kind of stir these, and then I guess it's almost time to get frying. This is my little fry station. I've got my tomatoes are kind of back here off screen, but I'm going to follow what the recipe says. I do have a plate over here with paper towel on it that I'm going to put the tomatoes on after they're fried. It doesn't technically say to do this. It says to lay them on a baking sheet and then top with the Crab and Asiago. But I've run out of room, and I obviously want to show you guys what I'm doing. So we're making do with what we have right now. But let's just get started. I've got my oil, so I'm just going to grab this tomato. I'm going to cover it in the flour. Now, what I do find odd is that we have yet to salt and pepper these. We're going to salt and pepper them after they've been fried. So I think that's interesting. Okay. And they're in the egg. Kind of let that drip a little bit. And I didn't do a good job because all the panko or all the egg just came off this whole side. Okay, so the first one, you know, just kind of like when I make chicken, it's just kind of a dud. And our stuff is definitely not hot enough, our oil, but we're going to keep going at it. It's getting there. You can hear it sizzle a little bit. But we definitely have like a first pancake situation happening. So here's my second tomato into the egg. Okay, and then into the panko. See, it's where I hold it is the problem, I think. I'm going to turn the oil heat down a little bit. I'm also thinking I might want to add more because it's not really getting the sides. See, that looks pretty bad. That also looks pretty bad. Or a little bit. I've just made an absolute mess with the panko. Let's try another one. Get this tomato in here. Okay. Get it in the egg. I just don't, this is like, obviously this is where I'm going wrong, and I don't know why. And then there. And then I'm going to take this this hand, and just cover it with panko. And then if I'm really, really careful, as I drip egg everywhere, I can kind of smush the other side in and flip. That looks a lot better. Okay. We're going to go ahead, wash our fingers again. I'm going to give this one a flip. Maybe. Okay. I turned the oil down so it doesn't get as hot. I'm still thinking I might add a little bit more oil just to get the height right, because it's not really on the sides of the tomatoes, but you know, that is what it is. Let's go ahead, and I might be using like a bigger skillet. The recipe doesn't specify, it just says in a skillet or a saute pan. So yeah. Did I flip this? Yeah. Let's look at this. That's not bad. Still not great, but that's definitely an improvement. So I've added more oil. So oil should have cooled down a little bit. I've lowered the burner temperature. I'm going to get a new plate ready right here. Let's just try another tomato into the flour. into the egg. Push it down in the egg. Then I'm just going to make a nice little bed in the panko. Okay. Take my other hand and just kind of cover it. No one said this was going to be elegant. This might be from the fancy chapter, but okay, I think that was a lot better. Give this a turn. I definitely overcooked this a little bit. My bad. A little more burnt than golden, but hey. But I think we're getting there. That one looks pretty good. That one has a mistake. This one looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and, like what the book says, I'm going to salt and pepper these really quick. Hey, so we fried all of our tomatoes. They honestly, they look pretty good. They came out better than I thought towards the end. So I'm happy. I feel like, you know, my grandma came down and she was like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. What did I teach you? And it finally made sense. It took a while to clean up everything. So, you know, that's what it is. But that's kind of how frying always goes. I feel like it's just like a big mess. Anyways, let's get started on the final parts of this dish. So we lay the tomato slices on a baking sheet and top with the crab meat and Asiago cheese. So I'm just going to go ahead and take these guys and there we go. I'm going to start with this 6. I have my Asiago cheese here from earlier that we shredded. And then I went ahead and I bought this just like lump crab meat in a can. I went ahead and I've drained it and then I put it on paper towels to drain even more. This is the same, I'm pretty sure it's the same crab meat that we used in an older video for the crab quiche from Mastering the Art of French Cooking. So I know it's going to be maybe a little crabbier, but what can you do, you know? It was what the store had. Now, to be fair, I didn't look in the seafood department, but I knew that that would be more expensive than this. So it doesn't say how to exactly, what's the word, layer everything, but the picture looks like it's crab and then cheese. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of sprinkle in some crab in the middle of these tomatoes. Maybe. We're aiming for the middle. We are certainly not succeeding on all of these. And I don't want like huge pieces of crab either. I want like smaller, so I'm trying to shred it a little bit. I'm going to get a paper towel. I've used so many paper towels today. Sorry to the environment, that's for sure. But I am a paper towel fiend. And then we're going to sprinkle with our cheese. Okay. And now we broil these for 2 to 3 minutes until the cheese is melted. I'm going to broil on low and not high. It doesn't say, but that feels like the move here. Our tomatoes are out of the oven. We've got this bowl here, this dish. Don't forget about the slaw. I've decided this is a slaw, not a salad. I don't know what the difference is, and I don't really care. But basically what we do is we stack these. Now the picture has them stacked in 3. So I'm just going to take one. Maybe do this one. That one's a little small. Let's do this one. And then it has the top one flipped over, but I'm not going to do that. There's our 3. Perfect. And now we're going to take our slaw, give it another stir, and see if we can just... Oh, so close. We're so close. Oh! Okay. And let us get, this is our balsamic reduction. You can see it's super nice and thick now. Like, oh, look at that. And it says to drizzle on top. A little different from what the picture has. The picture has it on the bottom of the plate. But I think with the plate that we chose, we're going to drizzle it on top. There we go. And okay, so it's time to try this guy. For review, oh, she's wiggly, but this is what it looks like. It looks good. Curious to see how cutting it's gonna go. I don't think that's gonna go well. I definitely need a knife. This is gonna be our bite. Oh my goodness. That is so much better than I thought it was going to be. That is really, really good. Oh, I forgot. So the recipe also suggests, the cookbook suggests that we serve it with a Sauvignon Blanc from Chile, like a certain kind. Except I remembered the Sauvignon Blanc from the wrong recipe. So I bought a Kim Crawford Sauvignon Blanc. But I'm going to give it a try. A Sauvignon Blanc, I think, like, as long as we're in the right family, I don't know. Keep an eye out, because we'll probably see this again soon, but I'm going to pour myself a glass. Well, I had another bite. I drank the glass, a sip of the wine with it, and I have to say it works pretty well. Now, I'm not the biggest, like, Sauvignon Blanc person, so it's not, like, the best, but I understand what they're going for, you know? I took enough wine tasting classes in college. And by enough, I think I just won. I don't remember. But let's get into this one. Enough. So it was kind of expensive. Obviously, it's really coming down to the crab and the cheese. I got the cheese was like about $7. The crab was probably like 14 to 20, somewhere in there. I'm trying hard to remember because I bought other things, of course. So it's not the cheapest by any means, but that is delicious. Of course, it was time consuming. It was a lot. Like, I think frying is really, really messy. I have to now vacuum my entire kitchen because there's panko breadcrumbs everywhere. So it's not a 10. I don't know if it even qualifies for a 9 just because of all of that. I think, oh, but it is so good. And I don't know if it would be just as good with just, like, you know how you can buy pre-made balsamic reductions? I don't know if it's just as good as what I did, but I really like what I have. So I think I'm going to go for an 8.5. Call it a day. Like I said, the ingredients were kind of expensive, but they were easy to find. The recipe, easy enough to follow. I did a couple things out of order, but I don't think that really matters that much. Yeah, I like this one a lot. I would highly recommend it. If you go to the restaurant, I think I would get this instead of something else on the menu that I hadn't had before. But I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.